Okay, here's a deeper dive into the numbers inside TrackMan, correlating to those 3 shots that I hit, those 3 different trajectories, and some ideas on how to manipulate that trajectory. I've counted up on here on the left is the attack angle. Attack angle is going to be one of the key components to this. So let's just recap what I did in the setup, and then we'll go right into these attack angle numbers. So this first shot here, this is my standard ball position. The second one, I got the ball back about a ball width, and I've narrowed up the stance. And then my last one where I have the ball kicked forward a little bit and a little bit wider stance. Okay, so what that stance does, that stance and that ball position is going to help me affect the downward strike on the golf ball. So if I pull up animation here of impact, so this thin line is going to represent the ground or the surface that I'm hitting it off of, in this case the mat. And this blue line represents the trajectory in which the club is traveling into the strike. So this is my standard one. I'm hitting down 5.8 degrees. That's what that blue line is representing, is that attack angle. On my low shot, it shifted to 7 degrees. So I'm actually hitting down more. And this does drag the ball out of the sky. And then on my last one was the high shot. I'm actually hitting down the least. I'm hitting down 1.8 degrees. So let's take a deeper dive into these numbers then and how that affects the overall flight of the golf ball. So the numbers I have up, I've got some club head speeds, so you can see how that works. Not hugely important, but we wanted it to be consistent for an accurate demonstration. Then I have my attack angle, which we just spoke of. Dynamic loft, that's our next number. That is the loft being presented at impact. So when I move that ball back in my stance, I am likely to present less dynamic loft, or loft at impact. The difference between my dynamic loft and my attack angle is known as spin loft. And these 3 right here are going to produce a particular launch angle. So on my standard one, my launch angle was 14.4 degrees. That ball took off the club face at impact, and that angle in which it moved off the ground was about 14 degrees. That would be from here to here. This is a very lame way to measure it, but roughly that's the launch angle there from where that ball was. That's the 14 degrees. That is a combination of how much down I hit and the loft that I present. Now if I move to the low shot, I've hit down more, and by abbreviating that follow through, I tend to keep loft off of the golf club longer through impact. And I'll show you the follow through on the normal shot as opposed to the low shot where it's abbreviated. I get an 11.5 degree launch. So it's launched approximately 3 degrees lower. Now as I move that ball forward, I hit down less, I utilize more dynamic loft, and I launch the ball at 19.5 degrees. So that ball's launched higher. Now you can see that I'm pretty consistent in spin rate. That's one thing I wanted you to see. So I've got, when I get into these mid irons, I'm not going to see a huge jump or decrease in spin rate. So I had 6,800 on my normal shot, 7,200 on my low shot, and 6,800 on my high shot. However, when we move to the next metric, the height, my standard one, 100 feet, 102 feet. The low one was at 84 feet. That's great for hitting it into back pins or into a fairly stiff breeze. And then my high shot was 127 feet. And that's going to be good for downwind, maybe hitting it to a tighter pin over a bunker, or just firm greens in general. It's going to give me a little more stopping power. So if we look at the carry distance, my stock one was 182, 181.8. The low one carried 176, and the high one carried 176. The high one I mishit a little bit. Normally that's going to carry pretty similar distance to my normal one. The lower one is just not in the air as long, so it will carry longer into a breeze, but on a normal situation, it's going to carry shorter just because it's not in the air as long. Okay, so let's go back to the normal one, and I want you to see how the body's working. So I'm going to draw a line down the left side of my head here. This is not a ball position line. This is just so you can monitor the movement of the spine essentially by referencing the head. So I've turned slightly behind the golf ball, shifted back into the golf ball, but overall maintaining centerness throughout the golf swing. So I throw a line up here for the low shot. One variation, I still move off the ball just a touch. That's a common tendency of mine, but I have the same integrity coming in where you see that line working up the left side of my head there. I'm still slightly behind the golf ball for the strike, but I'm able to produce the low shot, even though I'm behind it. And now with the high shot, you can see these lines are just coming down to the ball's in a different spot. And that's what's changing the flight for the most part. Still get behind it, stay behind it, then I accentuate the high finish. So the majority of trajectory control can be determined just by where I position the ball. I'm able to make a consistent swing. Because when I'm striking it, I'm still going to have these hands up here opposite the lead thigh. Hands opposite the lead thigh. And hands opposite the lead thigh. So the main thing I'm changing is just setup to manipulate the ball flight. So my standard ball position, and your standard ball position will be different depending on the player. Mine happens to be, as I stated, with a mid-iron slightly forward of center. When I get into the low shot, I've moved it back, slightly back of center, and the high shot is just kicked up there, more like on the emblem on a shirt with the mid-iron. Now, it's all relative to the club. If it's a longer club, that's going to be a little further forward in general throughout, and for the lower lofted club, it'll be a little further back. Play around with these ball positions and manipulating ball flight. You're going to use these in a number of different scenarios, both shots in the wind, shots to particular green characteristics, whether they're firm or soft, as well as just lies. Setting up on an uphill lie, for an example, with a high swing setup is more conducive to solid contact. And on a downslope, you're setting up with the characteristics of a low shot to ensure solid contact. Play around with these. It's going to improve your overall ball striking, and have fun with it.